Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we continue the profound journey into the second chapter. And today we are going to cover slokas 2.19 to 2.24. Before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Hare Krishna. So I'll play the slokas.
य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं य एनमजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थकं घातयति हन्तिकम् वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयमक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुरचलोऽयं सनातनः.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Hope you're all ready. So it looks like today a lot of people are feeling shy. They're all hiding their cameras, their faces. Come on, Krishna wants to see you all. So let's continue. As I said, chapter 2 is in itself very profound. And the set of slokas we are covering today, they are also maybe, I would say, a little more profound. There are some technical words we will see here. But it's all extremely important and it's going to help us tremendously. So stay with me. So this set of slokas we just saw now. Here Sri Krishna is going to address one of the most fundamental questions that most humans have. Now, what is that question is, what happens when I die? That's a question that has been haunting humanity for a long time and nobody seems to have a perfect answer. Nobody seems to know what was there before I was born and nobody seems to know what exactly happens after I die. And that is something that Krishna is going to teach us in this set of slokas. Because the same question is haunting Arjuna also. Arjuna is having this kind of existential terror in a way because he's afraid. He's afraid that I'm going to kill someone. He's also worried that he will also die and he doesn't know if he's going to die and end up better or is he going to die and end up worse. Is he going to die a sinner? You see, those were the questions that was haunting him. So here Krishna is going to teach us this lesson which says that the soul is eternal, indestructible, and it is beyond the reach of death. And now he will go categorically into this. And step by step he is going to explain. I just want to let you know something interesting, that this whole idea that we see in the Bhagavad Gita, it exists in the Upanishads also. And this found a resonance all the way in the West. Like there was a very prominent philosopher, American philosopher and thinker. His name was Ralph Waldo Emerson. You can search that name. And he wrote a poem called Brahma. So if you go read it up, you will see that pretty much captures what Krishna has been teaching here. What I'm trying to tell you is, the way Krishna teaches things, it is not limited to just some Pandit community or some advanced people, nothing like that. What Krishna teaches is approachable, reachable, understandable by everybody, be it east or west or north or whatever. So Krishna in 2.19 he says that Ya enam veti hantaram, that means who considers the soul to be either killed or the killer, yashachainam manyate hatam, is ignorant. Ubhavto na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Hanti is slaying, hanyate is being slain. So he's saying that the self neither slays nor is slain by anyone. Or in simpler English, the true self neither kills anybody nor can it ever get killed. It's a very profound philosophical principle, because this is not just applicable in the battlefield, although he is explaining this in the battlefield, right? Now I want us to reflect a little bit. In our daily lives, you can see we are constantly identifying ourselves with what we are not. We are constantly identifying ourselves with our physical body. For example, we have these moments where we think, I am successful, I am failing, I hurt someone, I was hurt by someone. What is common between all of this? That I. Now, what is that I? All of us, almost all of us, whenever we say I anything, it is that entity that you see in the mirror. It is that body, isn't it? So that is the problem. Because that is our fundamental confusion between the eternal soul and the temporary body-mind complex. Now Krishna is now teaching here that although what you see is the body, that body is temporary. That body is not the absolute truth. It is only a relative truth, temporary truth. But that absolute truth which you are is that soul which is untouched. Untouched by anything. It is untouched by success or failure or, even it is untouched even by death. And we need to realize this. Why do we keep saying realize? Because it is very hard to explain. Do you guys like music? I hope there are some people here who like music. Oh, I see a lot of people saying yes. Beautiful. So that makes my job easier. So you all really love music. Now let me tell you something. There is a language in which we can write music. In the Hindustani classical, they write it in a different way. They will have saregama and they will have, lines connecting them. They will, categorize it into antara and murki and whatever. And in the West, there is something called as, the staff notation. Now, let us say I give you all possible details about a piece of music. Who was the composer? Who was the singer? Which year it was? How many lines it has? What scale it is? What are the beats? What are the notes? I give you everything. You are not smiling now. But you said you like music and I'm giving you everything, you're not smiling. Because you are telling me, what am I going to do with that? I want to listen to the music, right? Now, if you actually listen to the music, that experience, can you ever compare that with all the knowledge you just got about that music? You can't. That is the same way it is about self or God that we are talking about. We can theorize endlessly, but the absolute bliss, liberation, is when we can realize. All this theory is just helping you understand whether you are going in the right direction, that's all. But ultimately it has to be realized. And if it has to be realized, then how it will be realized? Krishna will teach all of that. But the key requirement is first, keep that ego and pride somewhere. At least when you are trying to learn the Gita, at least at that time, keep it somewhere safe. And then you can pick it back up once the session is over. Because that will never let you see the truth. Like Soumyaji was saying the other day. It will always try to use its own lens, its own filter. So the real truth will never reach you if we don't handle that pride and ego first. And then choose your company wisely, satsanga. That is why I'm spending time, you are all spending time week after week. We will one day realize the power of this satsanga, where we all see each other, we all learn together, collective consciousness. And it's a process where we have to be consistent. As Krishna has said, consistency is extremely important. Like we had a session earlier today. It was another session about Swami Samartha, where we had this example where we said, let us say you like plants, you are a gardener, or you like to take care of plants at home. Now, when a plant is really growing, can you ignore watering it? Can you say that I will take a break, I will not water it for a month? It's going to die. Now, once a plant dies, can you just make it live again from where it died? For example, let us say your plant grew to 1 feet tall and then it died. Now, if you try to bring it back to life, will it start from that 1 feet height? No. You have to start again from the seed. You have to start again from the baby plant, right? The same way it is with spirituality. But once the plant has grown enough, once it has become a tree, then you don't have to take care of it anymore. A tree knows how to take care of itself. You don't have to. Have you seen anybody watering a huge banyan tree? It doesn't need you to water it. It will take care of it. Just like that in spirituality, until we reach the stage of a tree, which is until we become a sthita pragya, we need to be extremely consistent, extremely devoted, and we have to follow all the process. So Krishna goes on to say in 2.20, Na jayate mriyate va kadachi. The soul is neither born nor does it ever die. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha. Nor having once existed, nor does it ever cease to be. Ajo nityaha shashvatoyam purano. The soul is without birth, eternal, immortal, and ageless. Again, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. Now, there is a very similar shloka you will find in the Katha Upanishad, chapter 2. I don't have the exact number, but if I remember correctly, it is 2.18 in the Katha Upanishad. See the language there. Na jayate mriyate va vipaschannayam kutaschinna babuva kaschit. What I'm trying to say here is the language looks very similar. Like in 2.20, it started with Na jayate mriyate va kadachi, and here it will say Na jayate mriyate va vipaschannayam. So, and the message is also very similar. The Katha Upanishad says, the Atman is never born, nor does it ever die. It did not come from anywhere. It is birthless, eternal, immutable, primal. As many words as they can use, they have used. Why I am giving this example, I don't know how many of you know. Does anybody know what exactly Upanishad is in this group? Okay, so Sharmaji says they know. Sharmaji, would you like to give us an idea?
What I understand is that there are major Vedas, and then the understanding of Vedas is in Upanishads.
Okay, you're right. You're right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The Vedas themselves, they will have Samhitas, then they will have Brahmanas, then they will have Aranyakas, and at the end they will have Upanishads. So this is how the Vedas are structured. Samhitas are all those hymns and songs that you see, beautiful ones. The Brahmanas are a lot about rituals and how to perform them. Aranyaka, the word itself means it's forest. So Aranyakas are like more philosophical stuff. And the Upanishads come at the bottom. The Upanishads are more about more practical aspects of the philosophy that is contained in the Aranyakas, and so on and so forth. And the Upanishads are considered as Vedanta. So the Brahma Sutras, the Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita is included in that. That is called as Vedanta. The word itself, if you see, Veda Anta, that is end of Vedas. So you can look at it in two ways. If you want to look at it, literally, it is the end of Vedas because, as I said, the Vedas are structured starting from Samhitas and it ends in Upanishads. So that way, Vedanta is the end of Vedas. And also, if you look at it from a more symbolic perspective, Vedanta talks about what is the goal of all the teachings in the Vedas. The goal is to realize that absolute. And how do you do that? And that is what is contained in the Vedanta. Now, as you all know, there are two types of scriptures in our culture. One fall under the category of Smriti and one is called as Shruti. Shruti means that which was heard. Means it is not just your own memory. It is somebody told you, somebody gave it to you. That is what Vedas are. And they are considered superior because they are pretty much given by God. So Krishna himself says that he is the creator of the Vedas. And the second type of scriptures are Smritis. Smritis are what you remember. So you see something and then you create a story out of it. So all the Puranas, they're all Smritis because somebody is documenting what they remember. You see the difference. Why I'm talking about all of this is because the Vedas are timeless. And even if you look at the date of even when it was, because for thousands and thousands of years, these were only conveyed by word of mouth. From Guru to Shishya to Guru to Shishya, it kept coming down. And finally, somebody realized that the future generation is not going to have that kind of a memory, so we have to write it down. But scholars, they only look at the date it was written and they will say that is the age of the Upanishads. But doesn't matter. Even if you take that as the age, even that goes to around 800 BC. It's much older, whereas the Bhagavad Gita was written somewhere in the 4th century BC. Or why I'm saying all of this? The key that I'm trying to say is the presence of Krishna's teachings in the Upanishads is another evidence that Krishna is not just talking about some random philosophy. What Krishna is saying is the absolute truth because it is already contained in the Vedas, and Vedas are Shruti. Vedas are given by God himself. So we should have a lot more conviction in the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. That is the reason I am talking about all of this. Adi Shankaracharya also, he has written a very beautiful commentary on the Katha Upanishad. And in that commentary, he has given specific importance to this sloka. That is how I discovered it, 2.18 from the Katha Upanishad. And Shankaracharya says that this particular verse, it sets light on the nature of Atman, which is our true identity. And it transcends the cycle of birth and death. And he explains that the Atman is never subject to any physical change. All the physical changes, they only affect the body. So see, people always say that this is Janama Mrityu Jara Vyadi. You may have heard that. That is how they describe this Dukhalayam. The earth is called a Dukhalayam because it is subject to Janam Mriti Jara Vyadi. Janam is birth, Mrityu is death, Jara is growing old, and Vyadi is disease. And Shankaracharya, as well as all the Vedantists, they say that is all applicable only to the body, not to your soul, not to your true nature. And this is also aligned with the question Soumyaji asked earlier about Sat and Asat, and Chitraji also had a question. So here is where all that concept comes into play. Like right now, yes, for you to survive in this material world, you have to be an Asha or a Soumya or a Amiti or a Deepali. Yeah, that is your temporary reality. Arthik, that is your material reality. But that's not your absolute reality. The absolute reality is you are none of the above. You are that. And that is Sat. And that is the journey we are trying to go through and realize that truth. So that is the ultimate goal. A lot of people, they will ask, what is the purpose of life? Where is meaning? Life feels meaningless. You will see a lot of this going around. Life is pointless, they will say. No, it is not that life is pointless. It is pointless until you figure out what the point is. But there is a point. And that point and that purpose is to come to this realization. Come to this realization that we are that. That is the whole game of life. And once you realize that, the game is over. You win. And no more games. I hope, there was a very interesting interview I saw. There is a great Advaita scholar, Swami Sarvapriyananda is his name. And it was humorous because he's explaining and he's saying that how the ultimate goal of life is to realize that you are that, and how that gives you liberation, and then you don't have to come back to this life. And one member from the audience says, "Oh, but I enjoy this life. Why would I not want to come back?" That is Maya. That is illusion. It is like, somebody saying, "But this prison is so wonderful. There is AC and I'm getting food in a timely manner. Why would I want to, leave the prison?" That's because they have never seen what it is outside the prison. They have no idea. And that is the whole point here. I hope none of us fall under that category of I love the prison. I hope all of us here want to get free. Because that is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. If you enjoy the prison, then you are in the wrong session. Yeah. So see, this is what we have to ask. A lot of people, they have the question, what is so unique about being human? And that is what is unique about human. Because humans alone possess this capacity to realize the truth. Humans alone have the ability to even question. You won't see any animal sitting and wondering what is the point of life. It's only a human that is capable of doing that. So let us make the most of that, is the whole point. The beautiful aspect here is, this is one of the other very, very special aspects of Vedanta, is Vedanta always says that we already are divine. Vedanta says that we are already that spark of the divine. We already are infinite. We already are all of that. So what that means is, when we say liberation, it is not about being rescued. You don't have to cry out to God saying, save me, or take me somewhere else, give me liberation. That's not the point. The point is not of being rescued, but the point is that of being rediscovered. The question is, you have to just discover. You don't need anybody to save you. Because you are already that. Some Western philosopher very beautifully said that the worst prison is the prison that we carry with us everywhere. So we all have portable prisons, we carry everywhere, so that, we are comfortable. We wrap ourselves up in our own prison. Okay, so we said that is the absolute goal. We need to realize the truth. And we said we are already that divine spark. So then why are we not realizing that truth? What is preventing? Saying ego and pride is one thing, but it is easy. But if you want to really go further, what is stopping us from realizing that truth? So Vedanta is providing the reasons. There are many reasons given, but if you go through Vedanta in a very structured manner, Vedanta will talk about 5 kleshas. Kleshas also mean afflictions. So Vedanta will say that these 5 kleshas are fundamentally responsible for our suffering and fundamentally responsible for our inability to realize the truth. So what are those 5 kleshas? I'll tell you the kleshas first and then I will explain them. Okay, the first one is called avidya. Avidya means ignorance. The second klesha is raga. Raga means attachment. The third is dvesha, which is aversion. The fourth is asmita, that is egoism. And the fifth, abhinivesha, which is the fear of death. These are the 5 kleshas. Let's quickly go through them now. Avidya, ignorance. What kind of ignorance? The fundamental ignorance. Not knowing who we truly are. And most of Vedanta will tell you that this is the root of all other problems in life. This is the root of all suffering. Avidya, ignorance. Because we are unable to perceive reality the way it is. In a way, it is also called as spiritual blindness. That is that avidya. Because we are not able to figure out what is temporary, what is permanent, what is right, what is not right. And because of this avidya, we give in to attachment and aversion. So the next 2 kleshas, raga and dvesha, they are primary, immediate results of avidya. And what happens when you are giving into raga and dvesha? That gives rise to all other problems like anger and jealousy and greed. So that is, let us come to raga now. Raga is attachment, where you are compulsively clinging on to things that are temporary. We saw in the previous session how prapancha, how the real problem is we holding on, we clinging compulsively to things which are temporary and expecting something long lasting. So it's like a fundamental contradiction. Because we think it's going to give us happiness. We think that new car will give us happiness, that new job, that new house. And in today's world, the way things are going, the new girlfriend, the new boyfriend, that is what we think will give us happiness. But guess what? It can never make us happy. Because whatever we think will give us happiness is all asat. It's all temporary. That's the problem. What is the opposite of raga is dvesha, aversion, where we want to do the opposite. We think something is not going to make us happy. We think something is going to give us trouble. So you try your best and put all your energy to run away from it. We don't realize that even that unpleasantness is temporary. Is it not better to just face it, put up with it, bravely, boldly? That is the message. And also, we discussed earlier also that in some of the greatest challenges of life lies the greatest opportunities for growth. We saw that it's a very famous example given of how that butterfly, before becoming a butterfly, has to struggle to get out of that cocoon. It is said that if there was no struggle, the butterfly's wings would never grow out to be strong. So it is more like a gym practice for the butterflies, so that it can build the muscle required so that when the wings grow, it can fly. See, so that is dvesha. Then comes asmita, egoism. Very dangerous. Because apart from having this kind of barrier, because ego is what? Whenever somebody is trying to tell you something that is helpful to you or which is good for you, the first thing, without knowing, subconsciously for 99% of the time, somewhere inside our mind, a voice will say, oh, I already know. You see, that is the kind of pride which will not let any right knowledge get in. The bigger problem is this egoism creates these false identities. It's very expert in creating. How those criminals, they have 4 passports or 5 passports, and it's very hard to catch them. Just like that, our ego is very good at that, and we hide behind those identities. I'm white, I'm black, I'm man, I'm woman, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm Brahmin, I'm Kshatriya, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm this, I'm that. How many passports you have, man? But it is not letting you discover your own self, because you yourself are now so confused. Who are you really? You have 10 passports, make up your mind which one is real you. And that is the game of ego. That is the game of asmita. That's why we have to be very careful. And finally, abhinivesha, fear of death. And this is supposed to be the most common fear that unites all humanity. Because it doesn't matter your race or religion or social status. One of the unifying factors is every human inherently is afraid of death. Afraid of death in the sense, they just don't know what to expect later. They just don't know what comes later. That is one of the reasons they are afraid. And Vedanta will say that even that fear of death is because of avidya. Because of that ignorance. And that's what, is that not what Krishna is trying to address here? He's trying to actually give us that knowledge on who you truly are. Once we are completely confident that we can never die really, in the real sense, then will we be still afraid of death? That's the whole point. So Vedanta gave us these 5 reasons, and then Vedanta also gives us the solution. What are the solutions? Any guesses? What solutions do you think Vedanta has given us? So the solution is, Vedanta says there are these paths, 4 major paths, which we also call as 4 major yogas. Bhakti yoga, which is the path of devotion. That is for people who are all heart. Then we have karma yoga, path of action. These are the energetic people who always want to do something. Then jnana yoga, that is the smart people, super intelligent, super smart people who always want to intellectualize everything. For them you have jnana yoga. And then we have the fitness conscious people. For them there is the raja yoga. So these are these 4 paths, but universally every scripture will say that they all lead to the same ultimate goal, because they are all yoga. And by definition, yoga is something that helps you find union with that divine. And later on in chapter 6, Sri Krishna will also say that although we have these 4 paths, out of this, the most effective and the easiest is Bhakti Yoga. And that is why Bhagavad Gita will spend many chapters focusing on Bhakti Yoga. And that is the reason even we, like some of these satsang members, they are going to attend another, I think we are starting next week, Bhakti Sutra, because that Bhakti is the most essential aspect. I think Mansi has a question.
Hare Krishna Guruji, I wanted to know what is Vedanta. What do you mean by that?
Okay, I thought I explained it a few minutes ago. Vedanta consists of all the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. When you put all of this together, that consists this subject called Vedanta. And why it is called Vedanta? Because it is figuratively the last part of the Vedas. And also, it is the goal and purpose of the knowledge contained in Vedas. That is why it is Vedanta. Hope it explains. Okay. Hare Krishna. Now we talk about the soul's journey. Krishna will now talk about that in 2.22, where Krishna explains how the soul will keep discarding one bodies, just like we get rid of old clothes and get new clothes. Lot of us from India, especially North India, when somebody dies, they will say, "Usne sharir chhod diya." He left the body. Who left the body? So see, the point is, today, we are all like randomly I don't want to take names because I don't want to kill anybody here, but that identity we have, like any person, we will say, okay, let me take a name here that makes it easier for me. So we will say, oh, Praveen, or Deepa, and we identify that way. And then once you die, what happens? Like, don't they just burn the body, or don't they just bury the body based on what you follow? But they will not do it when you are alive. Now, hopefully nobody does that when you are alive. But as soon as you are dead, they burn you. So what does it mean? That whatever is being burnt, that was not Praveen, that was not Deepa. Because if it was, they wouldn't burn it, right? See, it's a very logical way to look at it, if you want logic. Do we have any importance once we die? Nobody will keep us around after even 2 days or 3 days. You can call yourself a doctor, a clerk, a lawyer, whatever, you're king, a Maharati, doesn't matter. Once you die, that body that you thought was the king or the doctor or a lawyer or whatever, there is no importance. So then what was important? Was it the body? That is what we are asked to introspect. And that is what we are asked to realize while we are alive. That is the point here. And that's what Krishna is explaining in 2.22, where the body is like a cloth that the soul just uses temporarily and then throws it away and picks up another set of clothes. I think this is the most logical thing. And Ramakrishna gives an example also of, his example is not about death, but his example is about this attachment to the body and how it gets better when you have spiritual development. So he says the difference between a green coconut means a very raw, tender coconut. I don't know if in today's world, a lot of children, you ask them where does a coconut come from, and they will say it comes from Reliance Mart, or it comes from Save On Food, but actually it grows on a tree. So, but if you have seen that green coconut, I don't know how many of you have tried breaking that open. It is very hard, and the kernel is very tightly attached to the shell. You cannot separate it. It's very, very difficult. So Ramakrishna says that somebody who is a beginner in the spiritual journey is like that raw coconut, green coconut. Whereas if you see a very ripe coconut, like we call it cobra in Hindi, the dried coconut, very ripe and dried, you can shake it and you can actually hear the kernel inside, because it is already separated. It is very easy to now separate the kernel from the shell, because it is not now attached so strongly. So Ramakrishna says those who have developed spiritually, they are like that. So it is just a pictorial way of saying why we should reduce this identification with the body. Now, of course, this is a science that says that the soul will go from body to body. And then Krishna is going to, later on, there is a lot of profound science behind what exactly determines which body you get next and all of that. But first we need to understand reincarnation is a fact. And the question always is, what determines what body I get? Of course, Krishna will talk about karma and all of that. But one more thing I wanted to quickly insert here, just so that it stays in our subconscious mind, is we should always be very careful what we desire, the kind of desires we have. We have to be very, very careful. You have to be very mindful. Always introspect. Always ask yourself, what are my desires? Write them in your own private journal. You will be very surprised. Sometimes if you are in a meditative state and try to look deep inside you on what kind of desires you have, you will be startled on the kind of desires some of us have, or many of us have. Why? Is because that also determines what kind of birth you are going to get. Because the kind of desires you leave your body with will determine what kind of body you get next. Why is it important in the context of what we are studying here? Is use it to your advantage. Now that Krishna is saying the ultimate goal is that self-realization, now that Krishna is saying you are the divine, develop the desire to know that truth. Develop the desire to know that divine. So use it to your advantage. So let that be one of your strongest desires. That way when you die, you can be guaranteed that you are going to a good place. Then Krishna is talking about the indestructible nature of the soul. Another powerful sloka, 2.24. Achedyo, adahyo, akledyo. So many words he uses. So he will say the soul is unbreakable, incombustible. Incombustible means you cannot set it on fire. You cannot make it wet. You cannot make it dry. Of course, if you cannot make it wet, then there is no question of making it dry. It is everlasting. Very famous statement. A lot of acharyas, they like to talk about this. This is the place where Krishna says, weapons cannot cut it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, the wind cannot dry it. It is very fashionably quoted in. But do you ever wonder, like, what does it mean? Like, how can you visualize, or how can you comprehend some entity or something which cannot be cut, which cannot be burned, which cannot be? It's very hard, right? It's very difficult to comprehend something like that or visualize something like that. That is what I was saying. That is one of we are going in that direction. You cannot theorize all of it. You will have to realize it. But I wanted to help all of us in some way, especially the people who like the intellectual analysis. So I will try to explain in a way that probably will make sense. But before that, I want to point out to one more aspect. So Krishna has given so many attributes of the soul. If you look at sloka 2.24, the final attribute he has used is Sanatanaha, where Krishna says that the soul itself is Sanatana. And that is what I was trying to explain the other day. Sanatana means eternal. Sanatan means something that won't change. So that is why our dharma is also Sanatana dharma. Because our dharma is not fashionable dharma. It is not that, something that makes sense we will conveniently adapt now and then in a later time we will drop it. No. Whatever is being taught by Krishna, whatever is in Vedanta, that is Sanatana dharma, which is eternal. And Krishna says our soul is also Sanatana. Our soul is also the same way eternal. So very beautiful. Okay, so now let me try to explain the way I will try my best. Okay, so we all know that we are all made up of the Pancha Mahabhutas. It's a fact that this body is made up of earth, water, fire, air and ether or space. This much I hope everybody agrees. Pancha Bhutas, Pancha Mahabhutas, there are many words used there. Now we are coming to the science. This science is documented. It is all part of Sankhya philosophy. So each of these elements, they have a corresponding Tanmatra. Tanmatra means this subtle aspect or this subtle element. For example, the Tanmatra of earth is said to be smell. The Tanmatra of water is said to be the taste. Like if you have been extremely thirsty, especially if you have tried, walking a long distance or trekking or something like that, and if you have faced that, strong thirst, I hope some of you have faced that thirst, because that is when you can appreciate the taste of water. At that time when you are extremely thirsty, even if somebody gives you Amrut, you wouldn't want it. You would want water. So that is the Tanmatra of water, is that taste. Just like that, Tanmatra of fire is sight. Tanmatra of space is sound. So on and so forth. Why are we talking about this? Because now we come to the science. The science, there is a principle called Tanmatra Avirodha. You have to actually read these things to really understand how profound, how knowledgeable, how advanced our ancients were, and how they have documented so many things. And this is just part of the 2-3% which has survived the countless innovations and countless destruction of our culture. But even the 2% or 3% that has survived, you can see how profound it is. So the principle of Tanmatra Avirodha, what is that? It's a simple and profound at the same time. It says that an instrument which is associated with a coarser or grosser element cannot have any effect on something which is more subtle. For example, you say touch and then you take smell. Now, smell is more subtle than touch. And the science says that something less subtle cannot have an impact on something more subtle. In other words, you cannot destroy smell using touch. Like, let us say right now you have a bad smell around you. Can you just catch it and throw it away? Can you try to take a sword and cut that smell? Try what you can. You cannot. You can at the most hide your nose from the smell using something gross. But the smell is still there. What is the only way to take care of the smell? You have to use something equally subtle or more subtle. So that is why we use an air freshener. Because the air freshener is a different smell which is helping you take care of another smell. There is no other way. Or you use something more subtle, like you can light a fire and you can hope that it takes care of the quality of air and so on and so forth. The subtler elements are more powerful than the coarser ones. So what is it that we need to understand? It's a very profound science. The profound science says that something which is gross cannot have an impact on something which is more subtle. If you can put it the other way, something which is more subtle is always more powerful than something which is less subtle. Just for your own general knowledge, this is the concept used in Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, basically they understand the Tanamatras, they understand the forces or the principles behind each substance, and they identify the disease that you have, and they identify what kind of Tanmatra or what kind of aspect is active, and they try to counter it using something equally subtle or more subtle. I'm not an expert in Ayurveda, but this is what is I could gather from whatever text I've read, that is one of the key aspects of Ayurveda. Now if you see how the soul has been described, the soul has been described as the most subtle thing ever. It is the tiniest of tiny things you can comprehend. It is very subtle. You cannot see it, you cannot smell it, you cannot touch it. So if you cannot see, if you cannot smell, if you cannot touch, is it not more subtle than those tanmatras or smell and touch and all of that? So if it is more subtle, if it is the most subtle, then according to the same logic, it is the most powerful. And now you get it. Now the statement suddenly makes sense. When somebody says fire cannot burn it, water cannot make it wet. They are not trying to be dramatic. It is not a dramatic statement that says no fire can burn it and no astra can destroy it. No, it is a fact. It is a scientific fact that says, anything which is gross cannot have an impact on something which is more subtle, and the soul is the subtlest. And because it is the subtlest, nothing gross can have an impact on it. So it's a very logical, very scientific conclusion. See, you all have to feel good. You all have to feel good about actually being that. You are actually that. So powerful, so subtle. So why fear? So there is another very great philosopher and poet. His name is Khalil Gibran. So he says that, so it is a continuation of Advaita philosophy. So in Advaita, we say, okay, you say that the soul is like this, soul is like that, soul is very powerful, very subtle. We start asking what is the goal of life, and we say that the goal of life is to realize the soul and how powerful it is. And then somebody will ask, okay, then what is the goal of soul? See, people like Arjuna, they are master questioners. They can keep questioning no matter how much you explain. So then the philosophy, Advaita philosophy says, the goal of the soul is to merge with that absolute super soul. That is the absolute goal, ultimate goal. Beyond that, nobody knows. And the example given is like a river. The goal of a river is to enter the ocean. I don't know if you know, but that is the fundamental difference between a river and a lake. Any river technically will flow an end culminate in an ocean. Whereas a lake is not flowing, a lake is just, localized somewhere. So then, based on this, Khalil Gibran has a poem where he is very beautifully saying that the river is afraid, he says. The river is afraid of losing itself in the ocean. The river is afraid of disappearing in the ocean. And the poet Khalil Gibran is telling the river that it's not about disappearing into the ocean, it is about becoming the ocean. You see, what is happening is the same, but how you look at it transforms your reality so profoundly. So it is not about you disappearing, it is about you becoming something vast, you becoming something much bigger. So it's a beautiful poem. It says, before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages, and in front of her she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but it's about becoming the ocean. Such a beautiful poem, and that summarizes Advaita Vedanta, where Advaita Vedanta says, you are not different from that God, and the goal of the soul is that ultimately you become that God. That is the whole point. So, in the previous session, I think Sulataji was reminding us of that story of Socrates. This was one of the truths that Socrates wanted to share with the world, and at that time, avidya, ignorance was all around him, and people said that he is trying to disturb people, he is trying to misguide people. Because he was talking the truth that nobody understood. And so they said he has to be put to death by drinking poison. And so once the order was given, Socrates is ready to consume poison and die, and all his disciples, his friends, near and dear ones, they're all around him. They're all sad, they're all crying. The only guy who seems to be peaceful and calm is Socrates himself. So one of his old friends, Crito, asks him, "Oh Socrates, how shall we bury you?" And then he greets the question and he smiles and he says, "My dear Crito, you have to first catch me. You have to first catch the real me before you can ask how to bury me." So it's very profound, very deep. So living the teaching, we have just learned some very profound lessons. This is like the blueprint for a fearless and a meaningful life. And as I said, this is the foundation of Advaita Vedanta. And it has to help us get that sense of oneness. Now you see, logically it will now lead you to that samabhava. Because once you say, I'm not this, I'm not all the various false identities my ego has created, I am that which is beyond all these identities. If there is no identity, that means you are also that, I am also that, because there is no longer you and I, right? There is no longer man, woman, white, black, nothing. Because we are talking about a reality which is beyond all of that. So if I am that, you are also that. And that should eventually take us towards oneness and samabhava and all of that. So the message is very clear. The message is all to awaken us to the true identity. Some acharyas have said that this false identity is like a spiritual sleep. Like they're spiritually asleep as long as we are busy in the false identities. We have to wake up to that reality. Recognizing this truth is not just some kind of a fancy exercise, recognizing that truth is our duty. This is our dharma. This is the purpose of this human body given to us. So we have to realize that and we have to make the most of it. Hare Krishna. With that, I can stop talking. I know it's a slightly technical thing. I have tried my best to make it interesting and easier, but if you have any questions, comments, feel free. The floor is open. Someji.
Hare Krishna Guruji and Hare Krishna everyone. Guruji, I have like 3 questions, but we can go through them one by one. First is, we described the concept, or you described the concept of like something which is more subtle is more powerful than something which is subtle. So, like just taking the example or just extending the example of experiencing a foul smell and then counterbalancing it, or like whatever, like we put a even more subtle or like or a smell that is more acceptable to us. So, first part of this question, again, like, should we detach ourselves from like what is, because this foul smell is also like not permanent, right? It is temporary. So should we first detach ourselves, and second, if let's just say if we just build up on this concept, then is this concept, which is something more subtle is powerful than something which is subtle, is it concept equivalent to entropy, which is the chaos, which is the second law of thermodynamics, which is like the chaos will just keep on increasing in life? Like that's the first question in 2 parts.
Okay. So for the first part of your question, it's not about doing nothing. It's about doing what is right without attachment. So, as you yourself pointed out in the previous session, you have a, arthic reality. You have you have to take care of it. So do what you have to do, but don't get disturbed by that smell is the point. And don't get attached to the good smell is the point. But your rightful action in that situation is deal with it, do what needs to be done, and then detach. Don't be so disturbed about the bad smell. Just do what needs to be done. And once the smell becomes good, don't be too attached to that good smell that now you need that smell everywhere. My car has to smell the same way as my kitchen. You shouldn't have that attachment. It's the message. Okay. The second, entropy is not about chaos. Entropy is a concept that says that everything eventually goes to a condition of decay. And a decay is not essentially chaos, but it is, you can look at it in many different ways. And entropy is also a term we use in software where, no matter how well designed a software system is, if you leave it unattended, eventually it will get into malfunction. But that holds true of our body, that holds true of everything around us. So the message, the takeaway for us is, that is why we need to be consistent in our practice. So today you may think that you have done something good. You may think that you have done some bhajan, some kirtan, some Vedanta studies, some thinking of God. You may feel good about it. But then if you rest, if you do nothing, entropy will kick in. A few days from now, that good is not going to just remain constant. It's going to come down. That is the point. But if you want my take on it, my take is chaos is just an order that we don't understand. What we don't understand, we call it as chaos. But is it really chaos? I don't think so, because the universe has been in existence for billions of years. Like, look around you. Where do you see chaos? The moon has been going around precisely for like 4 billion years with a B at least. People build houses near. Do you know, like when I was a child, I used to always have this question. It was innocent question, but people used to get annoyed. But I used to ask people, they are building this, because I have lived near coastal areas, and I used to ask that people are building the houses so close to the ocean. Are they not afraid that someday the ocean may just get inside their house? This is how I used to ask, and And my grandmother used to say, don't worry, God is very perfect, that he has kept the ocean there for thousands of years, it will remain there. But isn't that the fact? Like, you look around you, the sun has been at the same distance, the planets have all been in the same orbit, so much so that we have all those zodiac signs like Leo and Aries and all of that based on the stars that we see, and they've all been where they are supposed to be. Today you have software like Google Sky that can predict exactly when which star will appear. What part of that seems like chaos? You see? So what I'm trying to say is maybe not directly answering your question, but it is the same thing about miracles. People ask about miracles, and some great saints have said that a miracle is just a natural law that you don't understand yet. It is not that somebody is breaking the law, nature's law. No, they just know another subtler law of nature, So it is something to think about, Soumya ji, and let us see what Vikas ji has. I think I see his hand also there. Vikas ji, can you please turn on your show?
Hare Krishna, Guruji. First of all, apologies. My camera is not working, so I'm sorry, I can't turn on my video.
No problem.
I've logged in using my mobile device, so that is why. Second is, you talked about the soul. So I had a question on that was, so if the ultimate goal is realization or merging into the bigger soul or the universal soul or Krishna per se, then the whole concept, why were souls bifurcated and each of us having a separate soul or parts of the larger soul? So why is that? Because if the ultimate goal is to merge back into the absolute soul, then why do you have this smaller souls kind of created, and then you have to again go back and do that? So why do that in the first place?
Beautiful question. It's a very deep question. So the short answer is Maya. That's what is called as Maya, where Krishna says, or in the Bhagavad Gita also it is said that all this is created by Krishna, this Maya, this illusion, it's all Leela. So Vikasji, I'm going to ask you a question. What kind of answer would you like? Would you like a devotional answer, or are you looking for a logical answer?
At this point, I'm more more drawn towards the logical side. So
okay, fine. Okay, if you're asking for a logical answer, it will take me maybe a few minutes, but bear with me. But I'll give you the answer. So the short answer is Maya. The short answer is this is God's Leela, and this is what devotees will say, that it's all God's play. But if you're asking a logical answer, so your question then becomes why Maya? Isn't that not your question then?
No, it is. I mean, so why?
You are asking why.
Maya,
you want to know the cause behind the cause. So you are asking why has this happened in the first place? So we say it is because Maya, and now we want to know why, right? And
yeah. So, but Guruji, when you say Maya, so Maya was basically either created or perceived. So if it was created by somebody, and that is why maybe lesser mortals like us, we are perceiving it. So if at all, then why was it created in the first place? I mean, why is Maya required?
Exactly. So you are asking why Maya. You are asking the cause of Maya. So I am saying that the cause of this separate soul is Maya, and you are asking me what is the cause of that cause. And I will explain logically, bear with me. So fundamentally, this question has been asked in the past, and fundamentally great Advaita Vedantists like Vivekananda, for example, he will say that the question itself is flawed. Bear with me. Now I will tell you why the question is flawed.
Sure.
Okay. Now, let us say, we are asking a question of, I'm saying something happened. And now the question is when? Or the question is, was it before? Was it after? When? Now these questions of when, was it before, was it after, in other words, finding that out, they all are within the construct of time. Do you agree? They are all meaningful only within the construct of time.
Yeah.
Correct. Now if there was no time, will that question even be relevant? If there was no time, will that question make sense to ask when? Because time doesn't exist. Correct. Just like that, if you are asking me, is it inside, is it outside? That is relevant only as long as there is space. Will that
Correct.
question even make sense if there is no space?
Yeah,
Outside
then
of-
everything is where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so outside of space, there is no concept of inside, outside.
Correct.
You agree with that?
Yes.
Just like that, the whole concept of cause and effect is within the construct of Maya. Only when there is Maya, there is a cause and effect. Now, when you go beyond Maya, there is no cause, there is no effect. So, asking what is the cause of Maya, the question is flawed. Just like asking what was before time. Because we just logically concluded that before and after are constructs of time. So when there is no time, there is no before, there is no after. So how can you ask what was there before time? See, it's logically flawed. See, so I know it's a kind of technical answer, but you wanted a logical answer. So logically, there is no cause of cause. There is nothing that you can theorize here and say, why Maya? Because that why is asking what is the cause of cause, but then the whole concept of a cause and effect is within the construct of Maya. So beyond Maya, there is no cause. Yeah, that is why Krishna says it is easier to go with the path of bhakti. Just say that there is a supreme God and say that you have faith in that God and say that by that God's grace, one day you will be able to have the realization of this truth, which will take away all these questions in the first place.
Okay, so Guruji, I think maybe this part might come later on, but what I was trying to understand in the my root question was, why do we have so many souls? Correct. So if the ultimate soul is a single universal field or a single universal soul, we call it, then why do you have so many multiple souls? And then the multiple souls have to again find their way back to the universal soul. So why do you have this multiplying?
My friend,
in the first
that
place,
is what I'm
in
explaining,
the
my
first
friend. That is what I'm explaining. I'm saying that is Maya. That is the game. Now you are asking why the game, and that is the answer I gave you. Because that question is flawed. Because you cannot theorize it. Because what is the cause of cause is your question, and that is flawed. Because what we have to understand is, yes, there are these multiple souls. Yes, it feels confusing. Yes, it feels like what's going on. And the solution given is we need to rise above Maya. Then you will realize the answer. But you cannot theorize the answer is the whole point. But there we can give a lot of religious answers to this, which I'm not interested in. So I'm trying to give you the most direct logical answer to that.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji. For now, I think I will hold my horses.
Yes, you have to introspect on this. And if you can answer this question, that what was before time and why that question is flawed, if you can understand that. See, it's a very profound concept. Like even in the Western theology, they will say that space, time and matter, they were all created together simultaneously. You can search for that. And there are arguments that people ask why. And I'll give you the starting of the answer and how it is so philosophically profound. Because so if you create an object before you created time, then when will you create it? Because there is no time. But if you created an object before space was created, then where will you put it?
Correct.
You see, so like that, if you keep thinking, you will understand what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you this, some of these things, the questions themselves become flawed. Because the question of when is wrong when there is no time. But then how do you perceive that aspect where there is no time? That you cannot theorize. That you have to realize. And that is the whole science of Vedanta. So yeah, bear with me. I think this answer will keep getting more and more clear, Vikasji, as you travel with us, be with us in the journey. Pravinji,
Sure. Thank you,
had a
Guruji.
question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Guruji. So basically, I had a question related to the mind. So I understood that the soul is not attached to our body, but what happens to mind? I mean, when your body is gone. So
Excellent
Smita ji
question.
has tried to explain it, but I mean, if you can put more light on.
That will actually come later in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna will give the exact science behind it. But in the shortcut answer is the mind. So we discussed those three bodies we have. We have Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. Gross body, subtle body, right? When you die, it is the gross body that goes away. The subtle body is what goes from body to body, physical body to physical body. And the mind goes with it. So it's a package. Your subtle body and your mind, they are traveling from one physical body to another physical body. That is why it is very important that you take care of your mind now. Does it answer your question, Pravinji?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So things like your karmic accounts, and we will also talk about another concept called sanskaras. It will come now. Very powerful concepts. The sanskara is a construct of your mind. Like, some people by nature, they are happy. Some people by nature, no matter what's going around, they are just giggling and laughing. And sometimes people get annoyed with such people. Why is this person always happy, And there are some people who are the opposite. Everything is going perfectly fine in life, but for whatever reason, they just can't feel happy. And how the explanation is, that is your sanskaras. That is the impressions in your mind, or if you want a simpler example, like we spoke about this in the previous session, like you look at water, one person will feel thrilled, yay, water, and they want to go jump in it, and one person will be like terrorized when they see water. They want to run away from it. But why? It is the same human body, right? So that is the impressions that have been created by your mind, and they go from body to body to body to body. So that is the science, and Krishna will explain this much deeper, much beautifully.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji.
Most welcome. Hare Krishna. These are wonderful questions because, yes, this topic is deep. This topic is, I'm trying my best to do justice to it. Purvaji, are you having a question, or did you just lazily raise your hands? Okay. Purvaji is saying, I'm not my hand. Okay. So then, thank you so much, Hare Krishna. I'm really grateful to all of you for continuing the journey. My request is try to be, today it was beautiful how everybody participated. Please continue this. This is what the Satsanga is. And together we can all make progress and grow and have that ultimate realization. Ekansh, you had a question, sorry.
No, Guruji, I don't had any question. The only thing that was going on in my mind, I was reading to the scripture about Maya, and it just gave me something. The Maya make us believe that there are different souls, but there's no different soul. It is all same consciousness. And when the Maya goes away from your eyes, that illusion goes away, you start to believe that there is nobody different. It's all the same beings in front of you right now.
Correct. Yes. That is Advaita Vedanta in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I was also reading to this, not reading actually, I was listening to Maharaj and that he told that desire brings the soul to this worldly planets. The desire. The moment your desire changes towards the God, every Maya will start going away.
Correct. That's what we spoke like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
We said, be careful of what you desire, because that definitely keeps you in bond. Gautam Buddha pretty much said desire is the root cause of all.
The moment you said that, you start explaining the desire part, and I was desiring from past couple of days something, not a lot of materialistic. So I was like, there's something that I have to get into now. The desire again.
Yes. So, yeah. As I said, it's a process. So we have to be consistent and give it time.
Yeah, I'm not being very consistent.
Yeah, but you can change that. It's just chapter 2. So
yes,
16 chapter baki hai, so be with us consistently.
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. Hare Krishna. See you all in the next
Hare
session.
Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna Guruji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.